Here we go. Ready? We're going to start by answering the mystery of yesterday, Monday. How many are ready to answer that mystery and you are kind of disappointed that we didn't get to it? How many don't remember the mystery? Here's the mystery. Ready? Here we go. The mystery is this. There are two department stores. The mystery is, I've told you that subliminal messages are not found to scientifically influence people and change their behavior. Yet, if I install equipment in a department store over here that plays a song like Sugar Ray's what? Someday. I don't know why that is. That all of them clicking or just one? All of them. So if I play that over here in this song, what did I say would happen in this department store if I installed it over here but not in this store? What would be the difference is the theft rates would do what? They'd go down in this store in which there was a subliminal message played in a song that said, don't steal, don't steal, don't steal. Ready? Do the people in the store know when they walk in and they hear the song, do they know that there's the subliminal message, don't steal, going on? No, they don't know that. But the evidence is clear that we will find theft rates decreasing in this store over that 30-day period. So it has something to do with this idea of how we understand a threshold and how you understand a concept called intuition. So psychologists studying thresholds in the field of psychophysics like to know, when do you become aware, when does a threshold get crossed? So that you are now aware of a smell that you weren't aware of before. How powerful does that smell have to be? How powerful does a light have to be before you can see it? And we said the distance of this candle flame from you, for you to be able to see it on a clear, dark night, is how many miles? 30 miles is your threshold for detecting a candle from 30 miles away. Will you be able to detect that candle from 30 miles away every single night that this is on? The absolute threshold says it's 50-50. If we reach this 50% of the time, then we know your distance. And guess what? We can stand 30 miles away, light a candle on a clear, dark night, down at the beach. You're up here on top of this roof, legally. And you can see that candle about 50% of the time. Could you step further away, like 30 miles and 10 feet, and still see the candle? Could you step 30 miles and 10 feet away, given the definition of what an absolute threshold is? Read the definition.
50%. Oh.
Could you stand 31 miles away and still see the candle sometimes? Yes. Could you stand 25 miles away and sometimes miss the candle? Yes. Absolute threshold just means that 50-50, we find that cutoff point, and that's your absolute threshold. And we could do a sound. How quiet could a sound be? Before you can, like, could you spend a whole year in silence just so you can better discern a whisper? Some of you know what that means. If we reach this threshold, then what's happening is we're able to, I'll just pull that thing out for right now. You're dealing with a thing called signal detection theory. And so now I'm going to explain signal detection theory, we're going to explain thresholds, and we're going to talk about the mystery and solve it real quick. And it goes like this. Signal detection theory says there are basically they want to explore how a signal, how sensitive a signal needs to be before we can detect it. And that's what signal detection theorists do. And so they will end up looking at things that impact the signal, like noise. Give me an example of noise that would influence the guy trying to detect a candle from any distance. What would be noise? that the signal detection theorists would say, there's noise in the system, you can't see it tonight from 30 miles away. What would be some noise? What? Fog. Other lights. You get it? There's noise in the system. Well, let's start with just the noise in the system. In the environment, there will be things, and signal detection theorists have found that sometimes your ability to detect the threshold depends upon the noise. It also sometimes depends upon, it also sometimes depends upon detectability. How about down here? Does that thing ever mess up? What's that? He tried. Okay. Well, you guys it'll blink every once in a while. No worries. The detectability of the signal. Sometimes that signal itself can be a little bit off or a little bit weird. And signal detection theory says, well, your ability to detect a signal depends upon the noise, the detectability, and your psychological states. I told you the story of I took Elisa, my wife, to our first and only scary movie, and because at that point it freaked her out, and that noise was, remember that? And did I tell you what happened that night when we got home? I don't know if I told you. That night when we got home, she was extremely scared because she saw that scary movie and people were dying, and so she, when we went to bed, was like right next to me, which wasn't a bad thing. But after like about an hour, I'm like, you know what, you might want to scoot over a little bit and go to sleep. And she'd go like this, she goes, oh, what's that noise? And I go, oh, you mean that one that's going like that? She goes, yeah, what's that noise? And I go, that's our refrigerator. And she goes, has it always been that loud? Yes. What's that? I don't know, a leaf just fell off of a tree. Do they always make that noise? Yeah, they do, all the time. Her psychological state influenced her ability to detect signals. I think it was Friday the 13th. Or Halloween, or one of those. Is that when they go?
Yeah,
Friday the 13th. Part 30, whatever. So her signal. So what if, ready? I put you 30 miles away and I light a candle and I say, you have to detect this candle. What's the psychological state that would influence whether or not you would be able to detect this candle? What could I do psychologically to you? And the answer signal detection theorists say is, what if I paid you every time you got the candle right? What if I paid you $10 and I did 100 trials? And every time you got it right, you got $10. Would you be motivated to see that candle? What if a buddy just got shot and you're a police officer? Would you be more likely to see that guy coming around the corner as a bad guy with a gun if your psychological state was different? We have clear evidence, USS Vincennes, based out of San Diego, that shot down a Boeing 747, a U.S. military craft in the Mediterranean Sea, or I think it was in the Mediterranean Sea, shot it down. Anybody know why it shot down a Boeing full of people? Because signal detection theorists said the psychological state of the guy running the sonar and the captain who ultimately, or the whatever he was, that ultimately made the call to say shoot down that airplane was influenced because psychologically they'd been under attack earlier. Some people in their boats, ships, in a different part, and so they elevated and they went to code whatever red, and so now anytime an airplane came near their sonar readings, whatever their radar said, and by the way, there happened to be a film crew there that day filming all of this, so we know what happened. In the film, the guy sitting there at the radar said, there's an airplane coming, and they do the proper procedures. Dear airplane, stop coming this way. You're coming near, I'm simplifying. You're coming our way, we're going to shoot you down. Fly out, go away. And they didn't answer. And they put it on the special emergency channel, and they said to the airplane, turn away from where the USS Vincennes, we're an aircraft carrier, we're going to shoot you down if you don't turn away. And they couldn't read the signal. But in a state of red alert, they're going to more likely err on the side of being careful because they're afraid they're going to get attacked. So this plane keeps coming, and it doesn't answer. And finally the guy goes, look, this is the USS Vincennes. There's a missile in the air and it will be armed and it will shoot you. Tell us who you are or turn around. You're entering our protected space. We're going to shoot you down. They never answered. They shot him down. They thought it was a missile or an airplane coming in to attack them. They didn't know that until about 15 minutes later, and all of a sudden they're hearing all these distress signals from airports that can't find this airplane. It's a horrible story, true story. It's about signal detection. How good are we at detecting signals? See, this comes to play for psychologists. For years they've been asking this question. When does the outside world get in here and what fixes or alters that? And you will pick up signals from other people sometimes that you're not even aware of, and it influences you. Your intuition, your information processing is impacted by a variety of things. But here's the weird thing. How many of you feel like you're somewhat intuitive? Let me see your hands. If you feel like sometimes you talk with people, you're kind of intuitive. You pick up things. You're aware of things. You're kind of, it's maybe for some of you depends. Well, guess what that is? That's called information processing. But intuition is a very subtle and fleeting processing of information. It's not strong and powerful like, oh, he's angry with you. It's like, and if you don't pay attention to it, it kind of flees, fades away, like the song. It's the first cue and the first clue to answering the mystery. Sometimes some effects of information processing are so subtle and fleeting that they fade away if we don't pay attention to them. Like that second track of memory. You getting it? Oh yeah. A guy who studied this. What's a lemon? It's not a citrus fruit. What's a lemon? It's another word for anybody. It's another word for thresholds. It's this word. Okay? I think it's probably Greek word lemon. Maybe it's Latin. I don't know. Professor Weathers, is it which one? I don't know. It's a threshold. And so guess what? There was a researcher who studied and liked to know when does thresholds happen, and guess what he did? He began to study what's called sensitivity to your skin. And this guy's name was, no, not that guy. Guy's name was Subliminal. That was a different guy. Can I borrow somebody's pencils? Anybody have an extra 2? That's okay, real quick. So Subliminal did something called, that's 1, 2. Perfect, just 2 is great. Should we go, tell me your name? Ashley. We're going to test what's called the 2-point threshold with Ashley. Subliminal was a researcher about 100 years ago, and he tested the 2-point threshold, and here's what he found. Your sensitivity to stimuli to a point touching you varies according to where it is on your body. Would that make sense? Are different parts of your body more sensitive to things? And so if he touches, here's the idea, 2-point threshold means if I touch you with 2 points on a very sensitive part of your skin, you should be able to go, yep, I'm being touched by 2 points. Does that make sense? But if you pull them closer together, your sensitivity could be, I can't tell if you're touching me with 2 points or not. I can't tell, it's either 2 or 1. Does that make sense? So on your lower back, which isn't very sensitive, we have to have these points about 2 inches across on your lower back. But any closer than that, you can't tell the difference if you're being touched by 2 point or 1 point. Make sense? So Ashley, tell me your name. Angel. Angel, you get to raise your hand really high, and can everybody see her hand? She's going to say either 1 point or 2 point, and Ashley's going to look that way, and that's your twin sister. No communicating twin things back to each other. Okay, you look that way, Ashley. Give her your hand right up here, and here you can watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to touch you like this or like that or both. Does that make sense? So I won't be stabbing you. Angel is going to tell me, and you're going to see how many points I'm going to touch her with, and we're going to see the 2-point threshold in action. So Angel will tell me, and I'm going to touch you with 1 or 2 points. Ready? Mm-hmm. 1. She said 1. 1. You could, 1. She said 1. 1. She said 1. There's a theme going.
2.
She said 2. I would do this for about 10, 15 times, and eventually what will happen is we'll get to Ashley's arm to a point where we'll know where that is to where she's able to discern it most of the time, right? her threshold. And guess what it's going to be? It's going to be about 1.5 inches. Because by the time I touched you with 2 one time and you said 1, but it was about right there. It was kind of hard to tell, huh? It felt like 1, but let's say it's about this far, 2 inches. That's her. Is everybody following the 2-point threshold? If I go to this far or further, she's going to say 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. It's easy, easy, easy. I don't know, I can't tell. That's the 2-point threshold. He mapped out the body. He found what they did. That's it. And then comes the little twist. What did he do next? Suslov found out the 2-point threshold, and then he did something weird. He went below threshold, and so now I know her threshold is this, and Angel's going to hold up her hand, and Ashley's going to look away, and I'm going to do it about this distance for 1 or 2, and I need you to concentrate and think this is for your grade. Ready? 1 or 2?
2.
No, not really. Keep turning.
Oh, okay.
She said 2.
1,
She said 1. Concentrate.
2.
She said 2. He found that when he knew what the threshold was. It's 2 inches. He knew it. When he goes below that, they can't tell. But when he went below, like to about 1 inch or 3/4 of an inch, and he said, concentrate, concentrate, think about it, and he forced them to guess, they often guessed it right. They often guessed it right. Okay. He went below threshold, and they started to get it right. Does anybody see what he did? What did he do? He went below threshold. He went sub, that's the same word as threshold. Sub, it means below. Do you get it? Sub-threshold. Or he went below their lemon. Or he went sub-lemon. He went subliminal. And they oftentimes got it right. That's why words like lemon and subliminal make sense now when you say, wait, you're going below my threshold. And they got it right. He went subliminal. Can the brain pick up and discern if forced to focus? Can it understand? Can it pick up some subliminal sensitivities, messages? True or false? Did Suslov find that people were able to pick up some subliminal messages? Some subliminal stimuli? Yes, that's what it says. Okay, there's the mystery. But now there's a mystery on top of a mystery. So we can pick up subliminal messages. And the answer is, subliminal messages, if you were to be asked this question, do you perceive them? Could Ashley, in this case, in Suslov, can you perceive them? I'll ask it again. Can and do people, are they able to perceive stimuli below the threshold of what we call absolute threshold? The answer is yes. Now, are you affected by them? I told Ashley, think about this. Your grade is depending on this. You need to concentrate. Do you think Ashley would be more likely to pay attention and to process this and to think about it? And so this intuition, this information processing that's oftentimes subtle and fleeting is now much more likely to be paid attention to or by her. Do you think so? The answer is, are we affected by them? Yes, under certain circumstances. And what were the circumstances that I just told you? And this is what researchers have found. A, if Ashley or anybody else pays attention, is highly motivated, and is in the laboratory. Subliminal messages do work by us perceiving them, and we can be affected. That is, Ashley can pick it up if she's highly motivated, forced to focus, but it's only in the laboratory. Okay? These are very important distinctions because we do find, ready? If I flash up here, which is doing it on its own, but if I decide to flash up here this image, ready? Did you see it? Watch. Did you see a word? If there was a message that was being flashed up there subliminally and I asked you, did you see the word, what would your answer be? The answer would be what? If it's subliminal, it's what? It's below your threshold. Could you see the word? No. But if the word up here, ready? Out loud, spell for me the word feet. I want everybody to spell it out loud right now. Ready? Spell the word feet. F-E-E-T. How many spelled it F-E-E-T? Let me see your hands. How many, did anybody spell it differently, like F-E-A-T? 4 of you, 7 of you. Is F-E-A-T a word? I can get about 30 to 40% of you to spell it F-E-A-T. If I flashed up his subliminally, climbing a mountain is a remarkable feat, like that. And I kept flashing it, and I kept saying, concentrate, concentrate, look at this, concentrate. And I forced you, and then I said, spell the word feet. A good percentage of you will spell it F-E-A-T. Does that mean it's affected you? Only in those circumstances. And the next important point is this. Are we, by the way, there was nothing on there when I was flashing the screen. Are we persuaded by them? Could I get you to go now and do something with the subliminal message if I keep flashing it up there? Could you be, anybody know a situation in which a guy said he was able to persuade people to go eat popcorn at a 50% higher rate than before, or to drink Coke at an 18% higher rate when he flashed up there on a screen in 1958? Anybody heard this? Fort Dix, New Jersey, at a movie theater, a guy said he got his popcorn sales increased by about 18% and his Coke sales by 50% when he flashed up on the screen a message that said, drink Coke, eat popcorn, at a subliminal level, and everybody went wild. All the news media, the government was like, we got to shut this down. You're getting people to buy more Coke. Who knows what you can get up there subliminally? And the answer, at the end of the day, when people started studying this, was nobody was ever persuaded outside these 3 situations. And it didn't happen at that movie theater. It was never replicated. The guy couldn't duplicate it, and no one ever found it again. And they believe the guy just did it kind of as a publicity stunt anyway. So the answer to this, are we persuaded? The answer there in red, which is maybe hard to see, says no, we're not. We won't change our behavior, even if I asked you, because there's never been a situation ever documented by scientists outside of the laboratory that people have changed their behavior and went and bought more Coke or more Pepsi or stopped smoking because of subliminal messages. If you go look it up scientifically in any of the literature and any of the findings, you will probably find 0 or very limited out of hundreds of studies that have ever been done that this has ever happened. Okay? You explain to me now, why is there shoplifting rates going down in this store when I put in a subliminal message in a song called Someday that says, don't steal, don't steal, don't steal, and I put it in all the songs, don't steal, don't steal. Why does the theft rate go down? Compared to this store, over the same 30-day period, and the theft rate didn't go down. I didn't do anything to this store. Or maybe I tried another control group over here. Anybody been thinking about that? Why would the theft rate go down if I just now said we're not persuaded by them? One more time. Intuition, our processing of information, is oftentimes automatic and not conscious. While we can feel something and not be certain why, it is subtle and fleeting, not powerful or enduring, and it therefore, ready? Most of this that subtly paid attention, that subtly felt, fades away. Just like in the song Someday, these pieces of information that hit us like a subliminal message is fleeting, and it fades away. And that's why there's no known effects outside the laboratory that subliminal messages work. Do you have questions about this? Does it make sense? Yes, go ahead.
So
She's asking, is it possible that the theft rates went down because we do it over and over again? By the way, you could put it in there over and over again, and a listener to any song playing wouldn't know it was there, but it's over and over. Is that your question?
Because like if you're processing it at that moment you're not going to decide you might be affected in that just specific moment.
So if we played it a lot during a song, like 20 times during a song, don't steal, don't steal. Your question is, could that be influencing the theft rates?
Well, I'm just saying, like, if the song ended and it's not playing anymore, then it wouldn't affect anything after.
So, and then if the song ended, then it wouldn't have any effect, so you wouldn't find the theft rates going down at all.
What I'm wondering is maybe it's because shoplifters are, someone planning to shoplift is going to be very focused because they're probably nervous in the first place. And
Maybe someone who's shoplifting is a little bit hypersensitive to the people around them, and therefore they're hearing that song more going, oh, don't steal, even though they're not aware of it, and they'll change their behavior. But you remember, I said this point, it hasn't happened ever outside the laboratory. But that's a very good point, because by the way, I believe shoplifters are probably pretty hypersensitive, most of them, to what's going on around them, and that's one clue to the mystery. Just to give you one more thing of history, this band, anybody heard of this band called Judas Priest? An old, not anybody in here? How many heard of Judas Priest? Ah, very good. Very old group. You probably don't know who these two individuals are, but they were two kids up in, and you don't have to write this down, but I'll read their story. On December 23rd, these two men in Reno, Nevada put shotguns to their own heads after drinking and smoking marijuana as they listened to a record by this group, Judas Priest. The guy on the left shot himself fatally, while the other, James Vance, was grossly disfigured. The shotgun took his face off, and he survived. They got most of it back. He underwent more than a bunch of hours of surgery, and he lived in constant pain. 3 years later, he slipped into a coma and died. And then what happened? Well, both the parents got together, and they sued the record company and Judas Priest because they said there was a subliminal message in there that caused these kids to kill themselves, and the message was, do it, do it, do it, do it. And they sued them. And they said that song has the words do it in it, and they were suicidal to begin with, and that song pushed them over the edge, and that's why they killed themselves. You are on the jury now, and you've just heard this and the testimony, and now you're asked to make a decision. Could the words do it push a suicidal kid over the edge and lead him or her to kill themselves? Could it persuade them? Would they change their behavior in any way based upon what you now hear as this research? How would you vote? That was the test for these jurors. And that's what the research said, that this doesn't happen. So guess what the jurors found? Judas Priest was not guilty. And they made the right decision. First of all, these kids did a lot of other things. The words do it, by the way, Judas Priest said, we didn't put the words do it in there subliminally. We would admit it if we did. We didn't even know the technology existed. What you're hearing and what the defense or the prosecution put forward is, oh, they put it in there, here you can hear it, but it really wasn't put in there. Other people are more clear. Oh no, we put it in there. Judas Priest said that had, in other situations with other bands, but they were like, oh, that's just a voice of a guy breathing in at the same time he's doing it out, and you're hearing that, it's not in there. The jury found that this group was not responsible, and rightly so. There's no evidence, no time. There's no time in which a subliminal message caused a person to drink more coke or do something, act more differently, or stop stealing. It doesn't work. Do you get it? Now, what's the mystery? Before I answer it, is there advertising subliminally? There's a vodka called Absolute. This is a subliminal message in there. It's kind of see, but they put their words, Absolute Vodka, in the ice cubes. If you look at the bottom ice cube, can you see the word vodka in there? V-O-D... like that? Can you see it? Yeah. That's the O or the D right there. K, there's the K. Can you see it? Absolute vodka. Well, okay, let me ask you, by definition, is that subliminal by definition? Now you can see it, but they call it subliminal advertising. How about in this bottle of gin? Can anybody see anything in there that they put in there purposely that you would probably pass and miss? The word is in the ice cubes and it's sex. S-E-X. Can you see it? Certainly, alcoholic beverage companies would do this, but not Disney. They would never put subliminal messages in there. Would Disney do something like that? All right, give me a Disney movie in which they do it. You all point to the same thing. Lion King. Okay, if you want to see Lion King, here it is. It's the word sex in Lion King. And when he falls, a puff of smoke goes up and the word sex starts to appear in the S-E-X. S-E-X. All right,
That's actually SFX.
Oh.
Is special effects.
Yeah.
That does affect the animation.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there are different ways in which Disney, by the way, Disney, they will say, no, it's, that really is the word SFX, special effects, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But Disney people have been asked, do you guys ever do this? And they say, yes, we do it as a what? We do it as an inside joke for each other. Does it have any effect? I don't know. One day I come home. My kids are little. They happen to at 3 and 2 and 3. Most of the time, if you have 2 and 3-year-olds, they're buck naked. I come home, they're walking around naked. They have and they happen to be watching Aladdin. A lot. And I'm thinking, okay. And then someone says, did you know in Aladdin it says take your clothes off? Have you ever heard that before? Is there any effect whatsoever? The answer is no. They're just 2 years old. And they walk around naked all the time. They're not 2 anymore, but when they were, they walk around. And a subliminal message that's been put into Disney probably has, most of you don't even know it's there. It has no effect. They do it for each other, and then they'll tell each other, hey, I put this in, go look on slides, whatever, and you'll see it. And then they kind of like a joke, or you try and find it, they try and find it. It really has no impact whatsoever. Is it used in advertising? The answer is on radio, TV. You have to think about this. Would you, if you were over the Federal Trade I don't know, whatever, the people over commercials, would you let people advertise subliminally if you were over this area? If an advertiser wanted to put something on, would you be okay with them advertising things subliminally? Well, let's ask this question. Does it work? Subliminal advertising? There is what? No scientific support that people outside the laboratory ever change their behavior on the basis of advertising. All right? There's no scientific support, so there's no law against it, at least in this country. In Russia, however, they have also this similar things that they have studied, and they've decided no subliminal advertising can take place in Russia, and they have a law against it. That's in their country. So there's different countries, different laws. Not in this country. No law. Okay. Questions? Real quick. Move on. Old stuff, but it's fun. It's interesting. It's how we process information. Advertisers talk about it. Any questions about advertising or any other places where subliminal advertising occurs? Little Mermaid. It's all over the place, apparently.
So Disney really said that they put it in there as a joke with each other. They really did that.
Oh, they really do.
And they don't.
And they can't. You'll never even know it's in there unless you kind of know where to look. And even then, you wouldn't be able to really see it. But yeah, they don't say until the movie's produced, and then they admit it. Is that bad?
Parents have like sue or anything?
No, no. I don't think any parents should. Do you think parents should be worried or complain about it?
Well, I guess if you don't notice it, maybe not.
If it has any impact. If it has no impact. It's weird that it's there. By the way, this very question went around with your parents' generation and some of your grandparents' generation, because guess what they used to put into songs? Messages that would, if you play it backwards, would play, called backmasking. Anybody know about backmasking? Backmasking is something that if you play it in the forward direction, you can't hear anything, but there's something put into the audio in the backwards, and if you play it backwards, it's in there. So would you like to hear an example of backmasking, what they used to do? Ready? Here's 2 songs. Same song, one in the forward direction, and it's by this group. Green. Anybody know the song? Don't say what they say, but here it is. Ready? In the forward direction, the song is called Another One Bites the Dust. I want you to concentrate and see if you can hear this backwards message. Here it goes. We have no audio. Do we? That would really be a bad thing. What happened to it? Here it goes. Maybe there's a little bit of, we'll get it again just a second. And so, if not, I'll just try it a different way. Okay, I'll go this way. Okay, I'll play it again. This is Queen, Another One Bites the Dust. Let me go lectern, there we go. Okay, ready? That was that one, that PC. Should we do it again? But that's when I did this one, and it worked. Okay, let's try this one, ready? So it works. Okay, here we go. Turn this one off. Real quick, Queen, Another One Bites the Dust in the forward direction. Any urges, any feelings to dance besides that? Anybody pick up at a backwards level, backmasking, anything in there? All right, ready? I'll play it for you backwards. If you know what's in here, don't say it, because I want to see if you can hear it. Ready? I'm going to play that same thing backwards. How many thought they heard something in there? One more time, and now I'm just, instead of playing a lot, ready? Here it is, same clip, played backwards, and it's hard to hear something that makes any sense. But now if I tell you what to hear, you're going to hear it. Ready? You can watch my lips as they say it, but they're going to say, hey, it's fun to smoke marijuana. They put it in there. We should probably close the doors, because that would be like one of the worst lectures ever. Hey, it's fun to smoke marijuana, everybody. Hey, Dr. Corey, good to see you. You'll have a new professor next week. Did you hear it? Yeah. Did they put it in there? They did. Why did they put it in there? Because they thought it was funny and interesting. Does it have any impact whatsoever on people's behavior? Do you think people that listen to this song will now, who didn't think it was fun before, now think that's fun? It has no impact whatsoever. Yet our parents' generation, your parent, whatever, older people, when they used to have albums with backward messages, they used to, you know what they used to say? Go burn albums, because people would put things in there that were mean and rotten and bad things, let's say, and they thought, oh, this is having an influence on our children's generation, and they're listening to all these songs. Go burn any of the albums that have these backwards messages in them, and they were missing a key point. What is it? First of all, subliminally in the forward direction, these don't even have an impact, and now the brain has to translate something in the backwards direction? It's impossible to do. It has zero effect, none whatsoever. Yet it's still, and you know other songs that have them in there? Stairway to Heaven, Hotel California, probably, all kinds, who knows. All right, well, it's just an old controversy, or not even a controversy, just back then they used to talk about backwards messages. And
So then what was the deal with the store? Have you gotten there yet or not?
No. So what's the deal with the stores? I've just told you now, not only did I put them in subliminally, and by the way, here it is. This store, and here's the answer, ready? It's in the way I describe it. I go to this Target. I go to the manager. I tell them I've been taking a psych course and I can decrease your theft rates over the next 30-day period. And I'm going to install speakers, and I want all your employees to know that when I install these speakers, I'm going to put songs over the speaker system that say subliminally, don't steal, don't steal, don't steal, don't steal. You check your theft rates, and the theft rate is going to what? It's going to go down. This store, same store, nothing happens. It's my control group. But you tell me now why. Why is the theft rate going to go down?
The employees are looking at more.
First of all, I gave you one clue. The employees have been told in this store, and so now why will that have an influence? Because the employees are now going to be slightly more over 30 days. If you tell employees we're going to check theft rates in the store, do you think employees will now be paying attention to people coming in and paying more attention to them? Why did that have an influence on theft rates? What if you're a thief and you go into this Target and you're like, great, I can steal, steal, steal. But you go into this store and you're like, oh, he's looking at me more. Do you think thieves will find more people paying attention to them?
Yeah.
Will that have an effect on theft rates? Probably. What about if you're who's one of the biggest concerns for employers when it comes to theft? Internal theft. Employees. If you're in this store and you're my employee and you're stealing and I'm saying I'm going to watch for stealing for 30 days, do you think you as an employee are going to stop stealing for about 30 days? You're probably not going to steal much. Is my theft rate going to be impacted? So my theft rate is going to be impacted. Remember, correlations don't imply causation. Just because there's a correlation with subliminal message doesn't mean that's causing it. There are other variables, right? And those other variables are either A, hypervigilance by the employees, B, the employees are going to stop stealing, or C, there's probably just anytime we make a change and tell people those two variables, and there could be some other ones, but those are primarily going to be the biggest reasons why people aren't going to be stealing as much in this store. And by the way, it's also why I do the 30 days, because guess what? After about 2 to 3 weeks, 30 days, the theft rate's going to go like this. If I did this across the screen, here's your theft rates, and it's up here. This is day by day by day, and all of a sudden, it's going to drop down like this over that 30-day period, and eventually it's just going to go right back up, even if the words subliminally are in there, don't steal, don't steal. It's going to go right back to normal. Because employees are going to go back to stealing, they're going to be less hypervigilant. And by the way, you could test this. You could do what's another way to test this? You could put a subliminal message in there that says, steal, steal, steal. We don't care. Take our stuff. And guess what would happen over 30 days? If I said I'm going to find out if theft rates will be impacted, and instead of putting in don't steal, I accidentally put in the tape of all the songs that says steal, 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 what will happen to the theft rates? They'll still go down. Because there's nothing to do with playing on the radio, in the music. Does that make sense? It has nothing to do with what's playing there. All right, that's the mystery. Did you get it?
Yep.
Cool. Questions? Backwards messages exert no influence, conscious or unconscious. That's kind of what I've been saying that's for backwards messages, not subliminal messages, which do have a slight effect in a laboratory under certain situations when you're forced to focus. Okay, questions? Anything about subliminal or backwards messages? I kind of spent a lot of time on this, but it's kind of interesting, and yes?
You know Joe Camel, the smoking?
Yes.
Remember how it was like a cartoon?
Yes.
Would that be considered?
Advertising, by the way, he brought up this question. Everybody remember some of the ads for cigarettes for like Joe Camel, or he was a clownish figure? Well, he was finding this camel was influenced. They found more kids could identify Joe Camel than Mickey Mouse. When they were asking 5-year-old kids who to identify this, many of them were equally identifying Joe Camel as they did Mickey Mouse. You probably don't know Joe Camel because they removed it because whoever's over that went, wait, that's a target towards children, and they're finding a positive correlation with your product and Joe Camel because of this, and they asked them to stop doing that. But that's not subliminal. That's what we're going to call that. That's called association, and we'll talk about that. Difference thresholds. Now remember, we were talking about absolute thresholds, and now difference thresholds, it's another basic concept, Weber's law, called just noticeable differences. Just noticeable differences are things where you can tell the difference between two stimuli, like that is a 747, and that is a fighter jet. And the difference threshold is this. You should be able to make a distinction if these stimuli are different, and the way we make these distinctions are about just noticeable, we pick out just noticeable differences. You've played games like this before, where you have to pick out the difference. What's a game you've played like this? The thing where you shoot the bad guy, have you done that? Or in the movie, I forget the movie, Men in Black. Here's just noticeable differences.
Edward, what the hell? Hesitated. May I ask why you felt little Tiffany was served to die?
She's the only one that actually seemed dangerous at the time, sir.
How'd you come to that conclusion?
Well, first I was going to pop this guy hanging from a street light, and then I realized, he's just working out. Somebody come running in the gym, bust me in my ass while I'm this snarling beast guy, and I noticed he had a tissue in his hand. I realized, he's not snarling, he's sneezing. He had a foot there. And I saw a little Tiffany. I'm thinking, 8-year-old white girl, middle of the ghetto, a bunch of monsters, just trying to not get quantum physics books. She's about to start. She's about 8 years old. Those books are way too advanced for her. You ask me, I say she's up to something. And to be honest, I'd appreciate it if you eased up off my back about it.
All right, just noticeable differences. You see, what we forced to do is, and what Weber said was, will people be able to tell the difference? Now listen, this has give me a real world implication. That's just a game, but are there I gave you one about the USS Vincennes that ended up shooting down the wrong target. But this happens not that it's usually not that often that we find situations like this, but what if you are on a call and you're, let's say, a police officer, and someone calls you, like they did recently, and said, there's a person out in front of my house who has a gun. It's dark, I can't see who they are, but I think they have a gun. So the police go there. Now, on a normal day, nothing bad might happen. But what if the day earlier or that morning, one of your buddies was shot by somebody? Or there was a shooting you were involved in, and you had to make a decision, and someone comes around the corner. By the way, in this one situation, not far from here, in the city of Garden Grove, that happened. Police come around the corner, and they had to make a decision. Real quickly, is that person carrying a gun, and are they a bad guy? Because the person went like this, right at the cop. Police said, drop your weapon. The person just went like that. And the police officer shot. And he killed a little kid carrying a gun about 10 years ago, because you have to make a quick decision. Which is the gun? Which one isn't? You see, at times we can but that's just noticeable differences. By the way, that's the toy. But the problem is, does that look like the gun? I wouldn't know. How many would know the difference? Some of you that are around this stuff might be, but for most of us, we'd be going, right? Okay, that's the whole point of just noticeable differences. By the way, that's the concept. It has real-world applications. Psychologists, military people, police officers, a lot of organizations, a lot of people in airport screening jobs are trained to know the difference between normal behavior and odd behavior that could be the sign of somebody trying to do something bad in an airport. And there are people that watch you every time you're in an airport who are trained behavioral analysts who watch for differences, and they say, that guy talking to that person in that tone, in that way is normal. But that guy will raise everybody's red flags because they're watching for differences subtly, and the best ones are good at this, and they train them, teach them to see certain signs. Got it? Does that make sense? They use different thresholds, perceptional.
Is that in any way related to the TV show Lie to Me with the micro expressions?
How many have seen the movie called Lie to Me, or the TV show Lie to Me? It's based on a guy named Paul Ekman, who's a psychologist, who has studied nonverbal behavior, including facial expressions. And yes, he's very good at different thresholds, but he's also very good at reading nonverbals and knowing what they mean. And he will, and others have trained people to do what he can do, to detect lies, to detect behaviors, and that's what they'll get training in, many of them. By the way, sensory adaptation is one more concept related to this called, when you are exposed to some stimuli that's over and over again. Give me an example of something that you might be exposed to, a stimuli that doesn't change, and all of a sudden you become less aware of it. It's happened for everyone in this room probably right now. A smell. You could be in a room and it just doesn't smell as much anymore after you're there for a while.
Construction noises?
Or construction noises. If you live in Alpha, and you got all kinds of banging and hammering and whatever, after a while you're like, I don't even hear it anymore. The flickering on the screen. Some of you are like, okay, I'm just used to it. Maybe some of you are like, I'll never get used to that.
Maybe if you're carrying something heavy.
If you're carrying something heavy, if you have shoes on your feet, your brain goes like this. Shoes, 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 shoes. See, sometimes your brain doesn't say the words clearly. It's weird. Or you go like this. Ready? Wallet in my back pocket, wallet in my back pocket, wallet. And after a while, the wallet goes like this, still sends a message, but your brain goes, ignore it. Have you ever jumped in the water and you're swimming and they say, how's the water? And you say to them, it's great, jump in. That's just a picture. And you say, jump in, and they go, you idiot, it's freezing. Has that ever happened? Or you walk into somebody's room and it smells like their dorm room so bad it knocks you down. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's horrible. But then after a while, you are in there and you don't smell it anymore. Ready? By the way, who else knows about sensory adaptation? Oh, ready? Here's a group of people that do. Professional thieves. They know this. Guess what? They have found some professional thieves and professional pickpocketers have been known to do something pretty ingenious, so to speak, with sensory adaptation. What is it? Pickpocketers will put, oftentimes, not always, and it's pretty rare, but it's happened before, they will actually make a sign that's very professional looking that says, warning, pickpocketers in the area. And then they'll put the sign up right there. And then they sit right here, like this. And they just pretend to be one of the crowd, and there's a professional sign that says, warning, pickpocketers in there. Why would they do that, and what's that related to sensory adaptation?
Because then people will check their wallets.
People... They know when people walk by, they go like this. They're just walking by, going like this, and they look up, they go, warning, pickpocketers in the area. And they go, whoa, good, glad my wallet's there. And the thief is watching where they're reaching. He follows them for about 2-3 blocks, and he knows he doesn't have to go through this pocket and that hits right there. Yeah, that's evil. That's not great. That's evil. Evil using psychology is even more evil. That's sensory adaptation. By the way, psychologists like to study things like this. It happens in a lot. You could do this would this happen with your eyes? Could things disappear? See, here's the problem with your eyes. Ready? This is about your smell, your feel, feel. But with your eyes, vision, guess what? Your eyes, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at this, it doesn't work very well because your eyes are constantly doing this. They're going like this. That's just a normal movement for you. When you look at something and you look at me, it's just kind of like that. And therefore, it keeps getting refreshed. But if we can keep your eyeballs from moving, super glue, put on this very cool equipment, and you just stare straight ahead. My wife, when she kind of goes into like daydream, her eyes stare straight ahead. How many of you all stare straight ahead and things around you start to fade? Well, watch. Do you see this circle on the left? It might be hard to see up there kind of, but do you see this circle? Yeah. And this circle? This one's a little bit lighter, darker, whatever. If you stare at this X, you'll see it starts to fade away. How many is that circle kind of fading away if you stare at that X? Huh. Because your eyes stop kind of, it's still firing, but it just doesn't pay attention, it just starts to fade away. So you can actually get rid of a bad roommate or a sweet mate just by staring and not moving. And they could disappear. You're like, I don't like him, I don't like him, I don't like him. And then they're like, oh, they disappeared. I'm just saying, if you want to disappear a roommate, don't kill them, make them disappear. Any questions on sensory adaptation and all that good thing? Wait, hold on, let me hear this one. Say it one more time. Yeah, I think with corrected vision, it probably, like just normal glasses that correct vision, is that what you're saying? Yeah, it probably has the same effect. We're talking about either normal vision or corrected vision. It probably isn't all that different, but there could be other visual impairments that might influence that. But for the most part, yeah, same thing. I don't know, that's a good question though. Okay, all right. By the way, this whole lecture is on sensation and perception, and to end the topic of sensation, there are some cool senses we're not going to spend much time, but I love taste and smell, this topic, because there's a lot of detail, and I don't expect you to have to know all about the taste, gustatory senses, and pheromones, but here's just some cool things. 2 million Americans can't smell anything. Anybody in that case where you can't? Oh, we have at least 1, 2, how come you have, do you know? Oh, yeah, we have a bad sense of smell or can't really smell things. Anybody have a, and by the way, it's a very interesting problem because where do people without a sense of smell, where do they feel it most, so to speak? It's in food. Foods, and I'll tell you why. By the way, women tend to score better on tests for smelling. They smell better. So they're just slightly better at smelling tests than men. Pheromones are the chemical that we interpret or are able to process as a smell, and one of those ways is pheromones. And so, for example, even insects use pheromones. So do dogs, other animals, humans. And a pheromone would be like a odor secretion that transmits information. You guys have seen ants around here, the Argentinian sugar ants, those little tiny things that find food and they have a long trail. Have you seen them? Well, all that trail is doing, by the way, most ants communicate using pheromones that lay down a pheromone to tell the next ant, oh, follow me, there's food this way, and they follow that trail. It's pheromones. Even though ants have eyes, many of them, they have eyes and they can see, they rely on pheromones. So if you were to take like ants going like this up and down, if you were to go like this and just rub right here, this line away, and you would take the pheromone away. And so ants would come up to the line, not smell anything, and go, hey, what happened to the line? And they would walk around, and then finally one would go, oh, it's right there. Ooh, put a pheromone. And the next one would come by, hey, what happened? Oh, you put it there. And they'd eventually fix it up. So a psychologist, by the way, that enjoyed doing things, found another thing with ants. He's a social biologist. He's very well known, and he did this. He studied ants for a living, and that's Edward O. Wilson. And what he did was he found out when ants died, they gave off a pheromone to other ants that said what? I'm dead. And so ants are very clean, and so they take dirt and trash and refuse out of their ant piles and dead ants, and they take them out into a trash pile. That's what they do. That's how they keep their ant thing clean. And so he thought he would have fun. So he took the ants that died and gave off this I'm dead secretion, pheromone, and he captured a live ant, and he painted it with the pheromone of a dead ant, and he released it back into the pile, and the live ant would walk in like this and go, wow, hey, everybody, and they go, hey, you're dead. And they'd pick the ant up and carry him outside and throw him out all day long. Even though they have eyes and they saw him, he's alive. Like, oh, you're dead. And they carry him out. And this would go on all day long until that smell wore off. The ant couldn't convince the other ants it was alive. Like, no, I'm alive. And no, you're dead. And they throw him out. Humans, do we communicate with each other using pheromones? Do dogs? Yeah, dogs will send off a pheromone that says, this is my territory. Female dogs in heat send off a pheromone, and male dogs miles away come knocking on the door, can, poly play or whatever they say. I don't know. Pheromones are like that. Do humans have pheromones? Guess what? It is not as strong. It's more subtle and fleeting, but there are times there's a subtle fleeting effect that can be pretty strong. Like, for example, they've always tried, people always think, if you have a certain perfume, people find it attractive. And I know, I don't know what the one is today, Axe or something.
Old Spice.
Old Spice. When I was a kid, ready? It was called, the aftershave was called Karate. Because if you put it on, you had to fight the women off. And I'd always say to my dad, does that stuff work? Can I buy some of that? And he's like, why are you censoring that? You're like 10 years old. I don't know, just wondering. So now it's whatever it is. Oh, does that work? Could you put something on that makes you more attractive by pheromones to somebody else? It's pretty questionable. It's pretty fleeting. Pheromones work a little bit, but not all that much with humans. There is one interesting effect called the McClintock effect, that women that live in close environments oftentimes have menstrual synchrony. Some of you are like, yeah, we know that. And it's just because of pheromone. One person, and there's like a master, I don't know how, and then everybody else just kind of goes off of that, and they call it the McClintock effect, and it just happens like that. All right, well, I'm just giving you examples that are pretty small and fleeting within pheromones in humans. Any other examples that you can think of? It's not as strong. All right, whatever. So, are there other cool things that I think exist? This whole area of color and smell is way cool because, for example, if you were to take something that was different, it had the same amount of pheromones, same strength, you would perceive the darker color object as stronger, even if it was the same amount. So we've given people like green liquid and it had the same smell, but one was light green, one was dark green. They go, same amount, same pheromone, and they perceive which one is stronger. The darker liquid. Sometimes the taste is stronger that way because there's a relationship between olfactory and visual color. So if I was wearing something light and I put a thing of karate on versus a dark, it would smell dark on a darker outfit. It would smell stronger. So if you wear a dark outfit that day, you don't need as much on there versus a light outfit because there's a combination that our brain picks up as this interaction between senses. Can anybody else think of other interactions like that? There's some cool ones in foods. This is what I was telling you earlier, that the vast majority of flavors in your food and drink are tastes. I mean, not tastes, they're aromas. Coke doesn't taste any different than root beer. And Coke doesn't taste any different than Sprite. And it doesn't taste any different. Ready? How many believe me? How many don't believe me? If you don't believe me, go do the test. You go get 3 glasses, Sprite, root beer, and Coke. And you make sure that people can't see the color. And go up to your friends, or have your friend do it to you. Coke, root beer, Sprite. 3 cups. You can't see the inside because the color will give it away. How would you know the difference? You're going to take a sip and go, that's Sprite. Why do you know? Is it because it's a taste? It's because it's an aroma. Give 3 jelly beans. What are some jelly bean flavors that are really coffee? Earwax, do coffee, sour apple, and cinnamon. Do you think you can tell the difference between those 3 different jelly beans? You cannot if they're a taste. If you do what? If you simply hold your nose, because if you hold your nose, I guarantee you put in a coffee jelly bean, you will not be able to tell what that jelly bean is. How many don't believe me? Go do it. Ready? Go like this. Take the jelly bean, put it in your mouth, and go like this. Chew it. You will not know. You will not know what it is. You won't have any idea until you go like this. Ready? You're chewing it, and I say, okay, open up your nose. You go, oh, it's butterscotch or whatever. Same with Coke. You go like this. Close your eyes, take a drink, and hold your nose. You will have no idea of tasting the difference because Coke doesn't differ from root beer and doesn't differ from Sprite at all in there. It's all sugar water. The difference is in the aroma. Go try it, and then let me know if it succeeded. Flavor is therefore gustatory, olfactory, and visual. I'll tell you what, there's some other senses like hearing and vision that I think are kind of cool, and there's all kinds of fun things. I'll save that for the area of perception, but here's what I want you to know. Don't study the anatomy of the eye or the ear because there's too much there. For this class, you do not have to memorize the anatomy of the eye or the ear, and therefore hearing and vision will be limited to some of the things that I've talked about. And here's what we'll do on Monday. I'll talk about perception. Then we'll have Tori a day off, and then we'll start states of consciousness. All right, so we'll see you next time.
Biola University offers a variety of biblically centered degree programs, ranging from business to ministry to the arts and sciences. Visit biola.edu to find out how Biola could make a difference in your life.